Yeah, so good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Programming for Problem Solving Theory Sessions. We are continuing online here. We've already started our unit number 1, which is Introduction to Computer and Programming, where we have gone through the basic block diagram of computer, how computer works, other hardware, softwares discussion, then types of softwares, system software and application software. Now, inside system software, we have seen few examples like operating systems and let's say OS supporting other softwares like drivers and so on. Application softwares are nothing but the softwares that we make use of. Let's say a video player, audio player, or Office suite. Let's say we use that to create our reports or spreadsheets and on. Maybe other softwares like banking software, all those are application softwares. Then we jumped on to the programming language and scripting language and those understanding part, where we have seen how let's say what is a programming language, right? Just a minute. Yeah. So what is a programming language and what types of programming language we have? We have seen that thing. So machine level, so low level language and high level language. Machine or assembly is low level language. C, C++, Java, all those are high level languages and so on. Let's say machine level or a binary language does not require any kind of conversion. Assembly language also is okay, but high level languages do require translation from high to low level language, right? Which machine can understand. So in that translation, we have seen number of translators, and so we have compiler, we have interpreter, and so programming language requires compiler, scripting language requires interpreter. We have seen those differences between those two. And the last topic that we are continuing in this unit is the algorithms and flowcharts. We have started algorithms, and we have also started learning how we can write algorithms and all. Well, so again, let's quickly go through initial part of algorithm and few basic examples, and we'll continue for the next example then. So algorithm is nothing but a set of steps, sequential performance that we need to do to perform any task, right? So it's nothing but a step-by-step instruction. Step number 1, you do this, then step number 2, you do this, then step number 3, you do this, and so on. So if you want to perform a one task, then what are the steps you are going to perform in order to complete that task is your algorithm. That's it. Algorithm must have few properties, like it should be finite, and it should not be, there will be infinite steps. It must be definiteness, so at any point of time you should be knowing what will be my next step, right? It should be effectiveness, so whenever you perform those steps, you must have your required output, and it takes input and output. Those are the properties, right? So with this example, we have seen, with this first example, we have learned how we can write algorithm. Now this is a simple flow, step by step, step 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's it. No branches here, no repetition here, nothing. Very basic example of an algorithm which actually performs a task, and the task is calculating the area of circle. Now if you want to calculate area of a circle, you will require radius of a circle. So that radius is going to be the input. When you have final area, that will be your output. Now this is finite because it has a 4 number of steps only, and it is also definite. At step number 1, we know that once we have radius, then step number 2 is going to be calculating the area, and once we have the calculated area, we can print it and we are done. So it is also definite. So it's following all the properties of algorithm. It is nothing but step-by-step instructions. First you input your R, then you calculate your R, then you area, then you print your area, and you are done. So that's the first example we have covered. Second example, the aim of this example was focusing on understanding how we can have branches based on the conditions. What if this happens? What if that happens? And so on. So if statement we want to look at here, if n1 is less than n2, then we do something, else we do something, right? Now that something, if it is a simple step, single step, you can write at this place, or you can jump to the next step or a particular step number using go to. Okay, so using go to, you can jump to step 3 or go to step 4, wherever you want to go. Now algorithm is always going to be step by step, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so and so on, until and unless you have something like go to. Now if you say go to step 3, then algorithm is going to execute step 3, step 4, step 5, and so on. Now if we want to skip this step number 4, then again at this place we need to instruct that you, after you complete your step number 3, you should go to step number 5, and so on, right? So that's the look. When we write if then else, it is a conditional jump, and if you only write go to, it is unconditional jump. Without any condition, you are jumping to a particular step. Okay, so that was the a single if else example. We can also nest if else. Inside if then else, we can have another if then else statement. So you can say that if n1 is less than n2, then you go to step number 3, but at step number 3 we have another if then else statement, and so on. Now it may occur or it may happen based on our requirement, because this was the example to find out minimum number from given 3 numbers. So out of 3 you want to find one minimum number. Then, well, there are different ways available to go for. One is this: you can have 3 if statements. You need to have 3 comparisons, and then you can finalize which one is the minimum number in this way. Or you can compare in a different manner also. You compare n1 with 2 and 3, and then you go for another way, or you assume that n1 is the minimum one, and then you compare n1 with n2. If n2 is minimum, you update your minimum part, and then you compare your current minimum with n3, and so on. So there are different ways to go for. Okay, well, right now what we are learning here is we want to have a look at algorithms. So this is the another example of writing algorithm where we have number of if then else statements. And after that we looked at the repetition example, an algorithm where we repeat some steps based on a condition. So how do we write that? So in algorithm we say that repeat particular step number, okay, or you can say repeat step 4, that's it, or you can say repeat step 4 and 5, or you can also write, let's say, repeat step 4 to step 8 if you want to repeat multiple statements, right? Now when you say that you are repeating something, then to make this finite one, we must have condition here. Okay, in a repeat statement we must have one condition. So we say that we are going to repeat this thing while this condition is true. So if and only if, so you are going to repeat these steps if and only if this condition is true, if your iteration is less than number n. So what is number n and what is iteration? Well, we have already defined those things in previous steps. N is our input. ITR is just kind of a counter to calculate the number of iterations, and we set it to 1, and then we are going through this loop. Now within this loop we actually want to print n numbers, so we first print ITR, that is 1, and then we increase our ITR by 1, right? So next time it will become 2, then it becomes 3, 4, 5, and so on. Now if your n is 10, then this ITR will go up to 10. When it becomes 11, this condition becomes false. Now if this condition is false, we are not going to repeat these steps. So it will it will directly jump to the next step of this one. We are repeating steps up to 5. So when this condition is false, it goes to step number 6. Well, 6 is end, so stop there. Now this was the last example we have seen earlier, right? This is how we can write our algorithms. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. You need to have number of steps. Now when you're writing your steps, you can number these steps in a sequential manner. But in go to statement or if statement or repeat statement, what you can do is you just say step and have a space to write this number later on, because later you will decide what are the steps you want to repeat once you are done with this logic, print and increment of ITR. Then you find out a number from this place and you write those numbers at this place. Okay. Well, so that's the algorithm of printing 1 to n numbers. Now let's have one more algorithm so that we can have an idea how we can write that algorithm here. So let's say you want to sum first n numbers. Look, capital N is the natural number notation, so that's why we are using it here. Whenever possible, write your symbols like this one to a proper notation. Capital N is the natural number, ITR is for iteration, CNT for counter. So it directly indicates what that entity is. Okay. Well, so what we want to do here is we want to sum first n numbers. So definitely we need to loop, or we need to iterate our process from 1 to n. And every time, whatever the ITR is, we need to sum up, we need to sum that ITR into some answer, particular answer, right? So how we can achieve this is the same kind of algorithm that we were having previously. But instead of printing your ITR, we need to sum it up here. That's the only change, right? So you take your input n first, then you initialize your ITR with 1 because we are going for the first iteration. And along with that, we need to have some answer to be maintained. So we have another sum entity here, which we initialize with 0, because unit number for summation and subtraction is 0, and unit number for multiplication and division is 1. That you should remember from the mathematics part. So we will initialize our sum with 0. Well, then we are going to repeat our number of steps while your ITR iteration is less than or equals to n. Less than or equals to, I'm writing less than equals to. This sign indicates I'm checking my iteration with two conditions. One, it should be less than, or it should be equal, not greater than. Okay. So when your ITR is less than or equals to given number n, we are going to repeat step number 4 and 5. Now what we do in step number 4 is first we sum up that ITR in our sum. So sum equals to sum plus ITR. What is your sum right now? It is 0. Now 0 plus what is your ITR? It is 1. So 0 plus 1, and we assign that 1 back to the sum here. So this becomes 1 now. Next iteration, sum will be 1 plus ITR will be 2, because in step number 5 we increase our ITR by 1. Okay. So next time ITR will be 2. So 1 plus 2 is 3. Your sum is 3, and next time ITR will become 2. Then 3, then 4, then 5. So every time you are increasing your ITR and you are adding that ITR to your sum. And when you are completed with this process, okay, when your ITR becomes greater than n, this repeat loop, this iteration is going to be stopped. Now, when you stop, it is going to be jumped at step number 6, because up to 5 we were repeating. It jumps to 6 and it prints your sum answer. And then we end up. Yeah. So look, ITR, Abhishek, ITR is nothing but kind of iteration counter. Okay. ITR, we start with 1 iteration. Okay. That's it. It's nothing but a variable kind of thing which maintains your value, where we store some value. That's it. Look, when I say please remember 10, then what you are doing, you are going to keep that 10 somewhere in your mind, at some place in your mind. You are remembering that thing. How computer does that? So when we give a number to computer, please remember this thing, then computer is going to do that using this kind of a variables. I'll explain when we start programming language there, and we will see what are the variables. But this is kind of an entity which is going to store your value. That's it. Yeah. Why we assign sum to 0? Look, whenever you want to perform some mathematical or let's say plus and minus, summation and subtraction part, then unit value is 0, because we want to work on the same value again and again. Then unit part is 0. If you want to work with multiplication and division, then unit number is 1. Okay, here. Okay, Manjit is saying, sir, your voice is not coming. I believe other students can hear me properly. So, Manjit, you should check your internet connection. Yeah. Hinal says, sir, we also go through n plus 1 by 2 formula in this program. Yes, you can do that thing. That's the mathematical way of directly calculating summation of first n numbers, right? Now, what we want to understand at this place is how we can repeat some number of steps. Fine. So that's why I've taken this approach to explain how we can achieve this repeat statement. That's it. But definitely you may go for n plus 1 by 2 just if you want to have an answer of first n summation of first n numbers, then you can use that equation. Okay, so is everyone clear with algorithms? Algorithm is nothing but a step-by-step instruction. That's it. Yep. Okay. Viraj is saying, sir, please repeat step number 5 and 6. Okay, Viraj, I'll explain that thing again. Abhijit is saying, can we take ITR 0? Well, ITR is nothing but one kind of a counter or iterator, which is going to maintain your number of iterations. You can start with 0, that's okay. But if your ITR is 0, Abhijit, then make sure that when you add your ITR at this place in your sum, then it should be added as a 1 instead of 0. Fine? So in that case, you can take ITR as 0. When we start programming language, in C programming language, we will be maintaining counter or iterator, and it always starts with 0. But when we want to add that thing to some value, we will be changing that to 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that will do later, fine? Okay, so Viraj, look, on step number 3, what we do here is we say that you repeat your step number 4 and 5. So step number 4 and 5, we are going to repeat iteratively. But there must be a condition. So we have condition while our ITR is less than or equals to n. Now initially ITR is 1 because we have set that 1 in step number 2. And n is capital N is your input to this process. So for example, let's say input has been given as 5. So capital N is 5 ITR is 1, we say that 1 is less than 5, condition becomes true, and if that condition is true, we will repeat step 4 and 5. So in step number 4, we say sum which is 0 plus ITR which is 1. So 0 plus 1, sum becomes 1. And then we increase our ITR by 1, so ITR becomes 2. Now your ITR is 2, so your condition will be 2 less than 5. Yes, it is true. Still, it is true. So we are going to repeat step 4 and 5. Now in step number 4, your sum is already 1. So 1 plus 2, ITR is 2. So 1 plus 2, sum becomes 3. And then your ITR will be incremented. So your ITR will be 3. 2 plus 1, it becomes 3. 3 less than 5, yes. So sum is 3, ITR is 3, 3 plus 3 becomes 6. And then your ITR will be incremented to 4 and so on. Now when you have 5 less than equals to 5, so 5 equals to 5 is true condition. So at that place, you are still going to execute these two steps. But when your ITR becomes 6, 6 less than 5 is false, and you will stop this iteration. Okay. Fine. So Viraj, n equals to 5 was just an example. If your n is 5, then this is how your execution will go through. N is just an input to this process, right? So if you know, look, you already know how to calculate percentage. So you have entire algorithm to find out percentage, step-by-step instructions you have. But your answer will always depend on what marks you have obtained. Your marks are the inputs, so they may differ. एक स्टूडेंट के लिए 70 मार्क्स हो सकते हैं, दूसरे स्टूडेंट के लिए 60 मार्क्स हो सकते हैं. सो those marks are kind of inputs, and those input may change, but your process will always be same. 50 मार्क्स हो या 60 मार्क्स हो या 70 मार्क्स हो, परसेंटेज फाइंड करने की प्रोसेस सेम रहेगी. सेम वे इनपुट 5 हो, 10 हो या 15 हो, सम करने की प्रोसेस जो है वो सेम रहेगी, राइट? Okay, so this is how we write algorithms, and look, we are going to have these algorithm examples throughout our semester. When we start C programming language, at that time, side by side, I'm going to give you few steps, and those steps are nothing but the algorithms. I'm going to write some algorithms first, and then I'll tell you what will be the program steps. Okay, so throughout that process, you will be much clear about algorithms. Yeah, so let's move on. So what are the advantages of algorithm? It's very easy to write because we are writing it in a simple English language. How we understand step-by-step process, we are going to write it. So it's very easy to write, easy to understand. And when you read that entire step-by-step process, when you read that entire algorithm, it is very easy to detect any mistakes also. Oh, this is the place where you have made some mistake, right? It will be easy for you to find it out. Well, disadvantages are also there. It is time consuming because you need to write those steps, and you need to write in a descriptive way, right? It is difficult to show the branching and looping because when you have condition, then you use then go to, else go to. So go to will be some number of step and so on, right? So it's difficult to show those branches. If this, where do I go? If that happens, where do I go? And it is also difficult to show looping part, repeat statement, right? So difficult to show those branches and looping here. And it is only helpful when you have a smaller task. Okay, if you do have a smaller task, you complete your entire algorithm in let's say 10 to 20 steps, then fine. But if you go for 50 steps algorithm, then it will be much difficult. So these are few advantages and disadvantages of algorithms. And that's where flowchart comes, right? So it was difficult to show branching and looping and all those things and lengthy steps, right? And that's where flowchart comes here. Flowchart is nothing but a graphical representation of that process. Look, I'm saying that process. It can be algorithm, it can be program, or it can be any task, right? So any task, if you want to perform, then you are going for step-by-step instructions, and those step-by-step instructions, if you represent it in a graphical manner, then it is a flow chart. Okay, so it represents a sequence of operations, sequence of steps need to be performed for a given task. And flowchart creation is involved in the analysis phase. We have already discussed this. When we go for any kind of analysis, we either go for algorithm or flowchart or both, right? So when you are analyzing something, you draw your flowchart that first I'm going to do this, then arrow, second I'm going to do this, arrow, third I'm going to do this, and so on. And at that place, you can have if condition easily. If this condition is true, go to left side or go to right side. So branching will be easy to represent here, right? Now, we don't want to have all those statements inside our flowchart, because when we are going for a graphical way, now inside that box, if we write entire statement, take input from user for n, just like we were writing those statements in algorithm, if we write those statements in flowchart also, then it again becomes a difficult one. So to reduce those writing, we have some symbols in a flowchart that we need to follow, right? So what are those symbols? Let's have a look at those symbols first, and then we will take an example of flowchart. So your every process will start and will end at a certain place. And to represent that starting and ending, you should have this kind of symbol. Okay? And inside that, you should write either start or you should write end at this place. That is going to indicate this is where we start our process and this is where we end it. Okay? Then you are going to show your entire flow with arrow. Arrow is going to direct you from this step, next is this one, then next is this one, and so on. Now, whenever you want to perform some basic calculations or simple process, you will have a rectangle, simple rectangle, and inside that rectangle, you can perform whatever process you want. Then we have a parallelogram, like a slanted rectangle, which defines input and output. So if you want to have input from user, or if you define this is output, then we are going to use this symbol, parallelogram. And inside that, we say that read something or write something. And X will be your input or X will be your output. Okay. Then you have some subroutines. Subroutine is let's say defined in a separate algorithm. A bunch of steps need to be performed, and those steps are defined in separate algorithm or a separate flowchart. Then you can say that you can have this kind of a rectangle having double-sided borders, left and right, and inside that you can say process file, or you can say that process your some data, and so on. So that is the subroutine example or the symbol. Then if we want to make some decisions, so we can have this kind of a symbol. Inside that we can write our condition. So here what we do is we say that if A is less than B, now whenever we test a condition, we always have two answers, either yes or no. So from this symbol, you will be having two outgoing paths. One labeled with yes, another labeled with no. You should always have a label when you have a condition. So if this condition is true, then I'll go to yes outgoing path. Otherwise, I'll go to no outgoing path. So that's the branching, okay? Now, when let's say you are writing your entire or you are drawing your flow chart in a page and you are done with your page has been ended, but your algorithm is not completed yet. So the remaining part of your flow chart, let's say your remaining part of your flow chart is you are going to draw in a second page. Then somehow you need to have a connector in between. So on page number 1, I ended up at this place, and on page number 2, I'm starting the remaining part of the portion. Then those connectors are defined with a simple circle and some label inside. So from wherever you break your flow chart, at the breaking point and the next page starting point, you should have this symbol. Okay, so that's the connector. Then let us have a look at the first and very basic flowchart example. Now before that, let me have some queries here that we have on the chat screen. So can we say that algorithm shows only basic concepts of program? Not, yeah, we can say that. Look, when you say program, it's a larger code which performs multiple tasks, but algorithm is for a simple task. Okay, algorithm, you can have a unit process, and when you combine multiple algorithms and you have a one program, a larger program will perform all your processes, let's say. Okay, fine. Vyom is saying, can we have 3 paths in decision symbol? No, Vyom. When you say that you are going to take some decision, then decision will always be formed with true or false, yes or no. So you cannot have 3 outgoing paths from decision symbol. What exactly meant by subroutine? Subroutine is let's say a routine. Look, let's say you are performing a routine, but inside your routine you want to perform some task which has been done by other also. So you're not going to perform by yourself, but let's say you are going to refer that thing which is already been defined. So that's kind of a subroutine. Inside your routine you are going to perform some task given by the other. Okay, fine. So let's have this example now. Let us understand this thing now, and then we'll discuss few other queries also. So this flow chart is for the very basic example we have seen in algorithm also. This is for calculating the area of circle. So your flow chart always need to have a starting symbol and the ending symbol. Make sure that you use proper symbols here. Okay. Now when we start, then the first thing that we require is we need to have radius of circle. Now in algorithm, it was the input for us. So in flowchart, input will be a slanted rectangle parallelogram. And inside that we say read R. Read means take an input for radius. Okay, so we take a radius as an input. Now once we have a radius with us, we just need to calculate the area. Now calculation of area is a normal process, some calculation. So it will be a basic rectangle. Now in that rectangle we are calculating A equals to 3.14 multiplied by R square, R into R. Okay, so this is where we say that okay, we have calculated our area. Now once we have calculated our area, then we need to print our area. So at this place it should be print A or write A. Okay, so let me change that thing. Now, if you just want to print your answer on the screen, you say print A. If you want to store that area somewhere in the memory, then you say write A. So it depends what is your need, but the flow chart will have the same symbol parallelogram at this place because that is the output. Fine. So here we print our area and then we end this flow chart. So and every time flow chart will always be connected starting from start up to the end. You may have a single path or you may have a different paths based on your conditions, but starting from the first start symbol, you will have a path up to the end. Okay, so that's what the basic flow chart. Now looking at this flow chart, a graphical manner, you can easily or you can quickly understand what is the process you need to follow here, right? So let me have a look at few queries here. Vyom is asking, what if A equals B in decision path? We'll see that later, Vyom. Should be done for double AND and OR decision symbol. Look, there is AND and OR symbol that we will see later. It's nothing but a condition. AND and OR is a condition. Just like you write A less than B, you can write A and B. So Shubham, it's nothing but a condition. It's a decision symbols. So in algorithm, you will have the decision symbol only. Okay, Pankaj, I think I've rectified my my typing mistake here. Print A should be there. Okay, because whatever calculation we have done, the final answer we want to print here. Same thing to Savan. So print A should be there, and that's the basic flow, simple flow. Now let's have a look at the conditional flow here. So if we want to find out minimum of two numbers, then we need to have some kind of condition. If this, then this, else this. And when you want to go for conditions, so we start our process and we will read two numbers first. That will be the input. So input symbol. Now once we have two numbers, then we go for the condition. So condition symbol. Now your condition will always have two outgoing path, yes, no, true, false. So if A is less than B, if it is yes, we want to find out minimum number, so we print A. If A is less than B, now that's wrong, that is false, then we go to no outgoing path and we print B. Now, when you have number of branches, it is going to be combined at some place, okay? And when you have all those branches combined, you may go for the single path then after. And if you want to perform some process here, you can, or you can end your process here. Okay, so generally it is preferable that you have AND symbol only one AND symbol. It is preferable, but what you can do is print A, then AND, print B, then another AND. That is also possible to write. So both your branches will end at some place. Preferable because I'm saying that because if you just want to find out where your process ends, you just need to have a look at single AND symbol. And that's why what we generally do is we merge all those branches and then we will have a single AND symbol here. Okay. Yeah, Yusuf is asking what is this diamond symbol? It is the condition symbol. Okay. Let me go through those symbols once. Try to remember all these symbols because we are going to use this in a flowchart. A rounded rectangle is start or end, then a simple arrow. A simple a rectangle will be nothing but some action or some process, some calculations. A simple rectangle, fine. Then you have slanted rectangle or a parallelogram to have input and output. Then you have double-sided border of rectangle, a subroutine. if you are referencing something which you are not going to write, then a reference or let's say another algorithm, you process that file or you process some data, that's the subroutine. Then diamond symbol for condition, condition yes, condition no. Then you have a simple circle for connector. If you are okay, if you are able to have your entire flowchart in a single page, then you will never use connector. But if your flowchart is lengthier one and you are not able to complete your flowchart in a single page, then you will use this kind of connector. And this was the basic example, and this is the second example. Okay. Yeah, so Vyom is asking, can an flowchart have single start and two endpoints? Yes, it can have one start, two endpoints, but as I've discussed, as I've shown, given you the explanation, it is preferable to merge all those branches and have a single endpoint. It will be easy to find out where your algorithm ends, and it will be easy to find the throughout path from starting to ending. Okay, Vyom. Now, another part of your query is vice versa is true or not. Well, that is not possible. You cannot have multiple start points for your algorithm. Strictly no. Okay. You must have a single start point. Well, so this was the flow chart to find minimum from two numbers. Now, this one is a flow chart for finding minimum from three numbers. So what we do is we start, then we read A, B, and C. We take three numbers here. Then we are going to compare A and B first. Now, if A is less than B, then we go to left side. Otherwise, we go to right side. Now, if we go to left side, we already know that A is less than B. Now, let us check if A is less than C, then A is less than B, A is less than C, so A is minimum. We print A. Otherwise, we print C at this place. Fine. The same process we are going to perform in this path. If A is less than B, that condition is false, which means B is minimum. So we compare B with C. Now, if B is less than C, we print B, otherwise we print C. And as just I say, we merge all those branches and we go for the single and symbol here. Now, that's the entire graphical process to find out minimum from given three numbers. Right? So just have a look at this entire flow chart once, and if you do have any kind of query, you may ask. So whenever we go for analysis phase, whenever we have been given one task, तो सबसे पहले हम क्या करते हैं, जो भी टास्क हमें परफॉर्म करना है हम उसका एनालिसिस करते हैं भाई इसके लिए मुझे कौन कौन से इनपुट चाहिए होंगे. वंस आई हैव दोज वैल्यूज, मैं कौन सी प्रोसेस फॉलो करूंगा टू कैलकुलेट द आंसर. एंड देन वंस वी हैव द आंसर, हमें क्या करना है, हमें वो आंसर प्रिंट करना है, हमें वो आंसर फाइल में सेव करना है, व्हाट वी वांट टू डू. सो जब हम ये सारे क्वेश्चंस खुद को पूछते हैं और जब हमें ये सारे क्वेश्चंस के आंसर मिलते हैं, मुझे कौन से इनपुट चाहिए, मुझे क्या प्रोसेस फॉलो करना होगा, आंसर मुझे कहाँ पे डालना है, व्हेन वी हैव दोज आंसर्स, वी ऑलवेज represent those answers in this graphical way. When we start our process, these are the values I require, so read it. Once I have those values, what is the process I'm going to perform? A less than B, A less than C, B less than C, and so on, conditions. And once I have the answer, what I need to do there, हमें print करना है या save करना है? Okay, right now I just want to print it. So print your answers and then you are done. Okay. Yeah. Vyom is asking, in case of multiple inputs, comma is used for differentiating them. So it is rule permissible. Yes, look, read A, comma B, comma C. That is permissible here. Look, flowchart and algorithms are nothing but a user, a person understandable steps or simple statements or a graphical way. So as you can understand, read A, comma B, comma C. So I want to read A, B, and C. That's it. It's not a programming language where we need to follow a certain rigid rules here. Okay. The only rigid rules that we need to follow is these symbols, because they do have some kind of a meaning. Diamond means the condition, slanted means input or output, rounded rectangle means start or end, and so on. Okay, Abhishek is asking, sir, A less than B, that statement, yes or no? I'm having confusion on that. Okay, so it's very simple, Abhishek. Look, at this place, read A, B, and C. You have three numbers. Now, from those three numbers, you are going to take two numbers first, A and B, and you are going to compare A and B. If A is less than B, then you have some fruit, or you have some outcome. From this condition, you will know either A is minimum or B is minimum from these two numbers. So if A is less than B, A is minimum, you go to the yes part and perform the rest of the process. Well, if A is not less than B, then B will be minimum. You go to the no path and perform your rest of the process there. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So that's the conditional flow. Now let's have a example of iterations, repetitions. That's also we have seen in algorithm. We know how to repeat number of steps in algorithm, but how do we represent that repetition in flowchart? So definitely in a flowchart, you are going to have a path which creates a cycle. That's what the repetition means. Okay. So let's say if you want to simply print n numbers, first n numbers, we will have a print statement. If you want to sum up first n numbers, then this is the example. Right? So what we do is we start, and then we first require n. So we take an input, read n parallelogram. Now once we have that input, then we need to initialize some things, ITR and sum and all those. Well, those initialization steps are a simple process. So rectangle here, normal rectangle, where I'm going to set ITR equals to 1, sum equals to 0. Shivani is asking, does ITR stands for integer? No, ITR stands for iteration. Okay. So ITR is, I'm initializing it 1, and then sum, I'm initializing it with 0. Now that is simple process, so rectangle. And then we are going for repetition. Now whenever we have repetition, we must have a condition. Do you remember that? Step number 3 in the algorithm was having condition. So we are going to have that condition at this place. Now whenever we have condition, it is going to have two outgoing path, yes and no, right? Yes or no. So on this diamond shape, we have one outgoing path for yes and another outgoing path for no. Now if your iteration is less than n, if it is yes, then you are going to calculate your sum, and you will increase your iteration also. So sum equals to sum plus ITR, and then ITR equals to ITR plus 1. Now I've written both these processes in a simple single block. That is also okay. Or you can have two rectangles here. One will take sum, another will take ITR. That's also possible. Once you are done with that process, you go back to this diamond shape. So look here, this is incoming flow, incoming path, okay? This is not outgoing path. Remember always, diamond shape will always have two outgoing path. It may have one incoming path based on if you want to go for iteration or not. So we are going back to this condition. Now when I come back, I'm again going to check this condition, ITR less than n. Well, this should have ITR less than or equals to n, okay? Yeah, so ITR, because as long as we have initialized ITR with 1 and we go up to n, so it should be equals to n. So ITR less than equals to n. If yes, you perform this calculation. If no, you are you are done with that iteration process. So when you are done, you have your final answer. You should print your sum at this place, not B, but it should be print sum here. Yeah. So your final answer is inside your sum, and then you print it and end. Well, so this is what the example of having iteration inside your flowchart, having a cycle here. So this is a loop, this is a cycle here, but that cycle is being performed based on this condition. If that condition is true, we are going inside that cycle, but if that condition is false, we go out of that cycle and we end our process. Okay. So that's the another example of having a cycle or let's say a flowchart example which considers cycle inside. Okay, so look, let us assume that n is 5 and currently ITR is 1. So 1 less than equals to 5, yes. So you'll come here, sum is 0. So 0 plus 1 becomes 1, 1 plus 1 becomes 2. So your ITR is 2. You go to this path and at this place you again check your condition. 2 less than equals to 5, yes. You go to this loop again. Make your sum and then ITR will be increased. 2 plus 1, it becomes 3. So go to this path and here you say 3 less than 5, yes, and so on. So you are going to iterate this loop. When your ITR becomes 5, 5 less than equals to 5, yes. So even you are going to add that 5. And when you increase your ITR, 5 plus 1, it becomes 6. You come back to this path and you say 6 less than equals to 5, no. So then you will go to no path and you print your sum here. Okay. So that's how it will be operated. Remember, algorithms and flowcharts are actually part of the analysis phase. When you analyze, you are going to dump everything whatever comes to your mind, and from that entire analysis you are going to find out a certain steps. This is what I should perform. Those steps, if you represent in a graphical way, then it is a flow chart. If you represent in a step-by-step process, then it is algorithm. Okay. So this is what we have covered till now. We have started with introduction of computer, basic block diagram, concepts of hardware, software, types of software, compilers, interpreters, number of languages, and at the end we have seen flowcharts and algorithms. And this is where we end up our unit number 1. Fine. So we are done with our unit number 1, introduction to computer and programming. From our next lecture, we are going to start our second unit, which is actually based on a C programming language. Well, so that's all from my side. Thank you, everyone. Now, before you leave this meeting, once again, I want to announce, make sure everyone is using Institute email ID to join this meeting. Okay. Many of you are having typing mistakes in your email ID. Please rectify those typing mistakes. Spellings in the email ID. It is not being matched directly and you will be marked absent here. So please make sure that should not happen. And yeah, as we are done with this unit, I'm going to upload this PPT in the e-content today. Thank you everyone and see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye.